Practice Director at For Communications.
And I'm Craig De Silva. I oversee the PR and comms at Infinity, Middle East.
To launch the new Infiniti Q50 in the Middle East, we knew we had to do something different. And we knew that because of the challenging market conditions we were operating in. The sales were down, and the competitors' spend in the media was increasing, so we really had to do something that would capture the excitement and the interest of our audience. And we do this by really looking into who our audience was and understanding their interests, understanding their passions, understanding what drives them and their purchase decisions. So in the end, we came up with a campaign that would, for the first time ever, measure the emotional response of a car. And to really showcase this in real terms, we partnered up with Emotive Lab, and through a number of experimental test drives with customers wearing wearable technology that measured their cognitive response whilst they were driving the car, we were able to capture their excitement levels, their engagement levels, and really measure how they were responding to the car and put that in real data terms.
Obviously, then once we have the data, the next step was how do we bring that to life? Data is, it's numbers, it's graphs, it's boring for the average consumer to digest. After multiple rounds of brainstorming with, again, all the agencies involved, the idea was we partner with a production house, and we happened to choose one that was based in Germany, which would then take this data, the graphs and whatever have you, and then translate that into sound. So some kind of audio, and again, the way it worked out was initially we wanted sound, it then turned into a music soundtrack, and it kind of grew from there. And then once we had the soundtrack, we obviously said, okay, this is wonderful, but how do you bring that soundtrack to life visually in a really wow effect, great venue, etc., etc. And yeah.
And Infiniti, from the outset, was very clear that we have to do something that is a world first. Anything less wouldn't cut it. So we were up against quite a challenge to come up with something creative, and we decided to launch this amazing soundtrack and this amazing campaign, bring it to life at the most iconic location in the Middle East, which is the Dubai Fountains, against the stunning backdrop of Burj Khalifa. On the night, over 50,000 people saw this amazing projection of Infiniti on water, dancing to the fountains and the car really coming to life in this visual display, and the soundtrack obviously playing in the background, really bringing it to life and giving the brand its real exciting character. And
we proceeded to run that over the next 3 days as well, so it was every day, twice a day if I recall right, where you've got tourists, locals, just, yeah, it was fantastic. It was really great to see. I mean, we had teams on ground, we had technology on ground on both sides of the fountains deployed to really then be able to backtrack the people that were there enjoying the show to whether they then translated into a lead, into a sale, into a walk-in, or whatever have you. So too, this was streamed live on Facebook and our YouTube channel across the region. We had Twitter engagement, competitions to engage people to get them to watch it live. You had a bunch of media outlets like Gulf News streaming it live, and we had backstopped our technology in such a way that anything that translated from those hyperlinks into our website would then be a qualified lead or a hot lead or whatever have you from that. So the measurement structure, I guess, was in place anyway, and then we utilized it to really track measurable, tangible results for the campaign. Obviously, from a brand perspective, brand awareness is something that we always try and drive across the board, independent of what product it stands for. It's about Infiniti's brand positioning, which is Empower the Drive, and how we bring that to life by really doing things differently. Obviously, from a more business bottom line perspective, it's to drive sales. We are in the business of selling cars, and this is our main goal. But obviously, we don't want to shove the Infiniti brand down people's throats. We want them to naturally gravitate towards it. And this is why we came up with an idea like the Q50, where we really take something that's not tangible, which is the performance of a car, and then bring it into something that's that you can visually relate to, that you can hear, that you can feel from an emotional perspective. So I mean, for us, these were the key objectives.
And from an agency point of view, for us, it was really key to really make it an integrated campaign, because what we find is integration can be a bit of a buzzword in the industry. So, you know, and often we're asked to PR something that creative came up with, etc. So this was really an integrated approach from day one. So with the client and with the other agencies, working together from the concept to strategy to execution, and kind of having that approach across platforms, and really,
yeah, bringing it together.
Doing it as one.
said, the campaign success was measured with multiple verticals. Share of voice for us is really important from a comm standpoint as well as from a social media standpoint. We were the #1 most talked about brand in the premium segment for the entire month of November and December for the campaign period. Bottom line sales is obviously very, very crucial. And I can't remember the percentage off the top of my head, but we definitely increased our sales for the Q50 sedan. And then obviously awareness and leads. So the increase in traffic into our dealer showrooms and partners around the region, the number of leads generated from this activity. And really it's that knock-on effect. I mean, you do this fantastic execution on ground, and then you see the tangible results knock on. And again, the event took place in November, December, I can't remember, end November. And we were seeing people come into our showrooms and ask about, well, kind of synergize with what we did at the fountains all the way into February of the following year, which is fantastic. I mean, that kind of recall is amazing. So we had teams on ground, obviously, capturing leads, data entry points. We had nodes everywhere in and around the fountain areas. So we were able to basically track when those people either engaged with it online, with all of the content that we put online as a result of that, and so too when they entered the showrooms. So it's that back end, I guess, technical ability where you can track and measure it that then directly coincides with what you've done on ground from a campaign perspective.
Definitely an incredibly challenging market. Automotive sales were down since 2016, and 2017 wasn't much easier. So we were operating against a pretty challenging backdrop. Increased media spend from our competitors, so whilst INFINITI had no increase whatsoever, so actually earned media really took prevalence in this campaign. And then really about doing something that was first and different. As the brand, INFINITI is a challenger brand, and the challenge to us as an agency was to come up with something that had never been done before in the Middle East, or actually let alone globally. So that's exactly what we set out to do, and that's what we achieved. I mean, first and foremost, we had to understand who our customer was. Having worked with INFINITI for a number of years, we obviously have a good understanding, but this was very segment-specific, very audience-specific campaign. So we did a lot of research into, who our customer is, what their interests are, really going beyond the standard market research and really trying to understand what drives them, what interests them, and what are their interests outside work, their family, etc., and really being able to relate to them in a way that made sense to them. The other thing was, of course, then market research and understanding how our campaign had to kind of sit in that competitive environment and, with our competition, and just making sure we stood out. And really, really working together. So bringing the creative and the media and the PR side together, getting them to work as one, so that, execution was flawless.